every day you're working for 15-16 hours, like this is crazy. I'm like, it wasn't that crazy for me because আমার এটা ছিল চাচি এই গোলটা আমি সেট করছি, this I have to do it. Harvard is like one of those places, অনেক খুব হাসল, খুব ক্রাঞ্চ, কোন একটা ফ্রেন্ডের সাথে ডিনার করার জন্য এক সপ্তাহ আগে জানাতে হয়, so you get that instant feedback. And now imagine participating in competitions for 6 years where after every speech you are getting instant feedback. Your frequency of interactions tumar hoise with acquaintances, not close friend, with acquaintances.
Okay, this is take 2, but this is episode 1 of the Build Bangla podcast. My name is Ahmed Fahad. For those of you who don't have any context on me, I'm part of the founding team here at Pathao. The app has been downloaded over 5 million times. It is currently operating across 4 cities in Bangladesh and Nepal. Pathao today does ride-sharing, food delivery, and e-commerce logistics. At this point, I lead the product team at Pathao, which operates at the intersection of business strategy, software engineering, and design. Shohoj bhashaye, that means working with all parts of the company and finding out what the real pain points are and bringing technical solutions to those problems. Finally, I'm still in school. I go to IBA, which is a business school at Dhaka University. But to that end, this podcast is not going to be all about me. It is actually going to be about people. This podcast is not like school or anything of that sort. This is more of a behind-the-scenes program. We will have in-depth conversations with top performers in different fields, be it startups, investing, education, athletes, and everyone in between. It will be very wide-ranging, but covering folks who've done interesting things from and for Bangladesh. In the process of speaking with these people, we'll try to suss out what are the few critical things, what are the 20% of tactics, philosophies, or principles that they have to get 80% of their results. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you through this interview, of course, our first guest. He is an ex-classmate of mine. He currently goes to Harvard. His interests range from public speaking to writing to occasional stand-up comedy. But I'll actually, Seeam, thanks for being on the show. I'll leave it to you to actually do a better job at your introduction.
Thank you, Fahad. This is crazy. How do you introduce yourself? যদি একেবারে শর্ট সামারি দিতে হয় তাহলে I guess বাংলাদেশে বড় হয়েছি, born and brought up, finished my SSCs and HSCs from Mirzapur Cadet College. মাঝখানে এক সেমিস্টার মতো ছিলাম ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটিতে, পরে I realized যে আমার হার্ভার্ডে চান্স হয়ে গিয়েছে. We can talk about that later if you're interested. পরে হার্ভার্ডে গেলাম. I initially wanted to study neuroscience, but ওখানে কিছুদিন থাকার পর I realized I have a more like profound interest in applied mathematics. So that's what I study. I'm এখন third year এ উঠলাম. This is my summer vacation, and yeah, excited to be here.
Awesome. During the one semester that you actually studied in IBA, I think that is the only time that that is the connection that we have. And during that time, I think it was our first year, probably our first presentation, and we were just talking about this. I was actually not in the room to actually view it, but Seeam actually gave this really nice, captivating presentation for our English course. And it was kind of like, oh, he's so great at public speaking, and a lot of people were praising that. And in passing, one of our mutual friends actually told me that, hey, this is actually what we're kind of trained for at Cadet College, where we're kind of forced or pushed to actually put ourselves out there. And that has really helped Seeam, and he's taken full advantage of that experience. 2 things. One, could you speak to that and actually elaborate on more of your Cadet College background?
Acha.
For like folks who don't have context, Cadet College is a military school kind of a thing, and you can like take a better stab at describing it.
Acha. So Cadet College হচ্ছে বাংলাদেশের যে ন্যাশনাল কারিকুলাম ওইটার আন্ডারে, it's a military school. What that means হচ্ছে আমরা গ্রেড 7-এ যাই, আমরা ওখানে 6 বছর থাকি, পরে এইচএসসি দিয়ে বের হয়ে আসি. How is it different from normal schools হচ্ছে, ইমাজিন মিলিটারিতে যেসব ট্রেনিং করা হয় আমরা সবই করি. However, আমরা মানে কি military is like a next level or একটা আপগ্রেডের মতো, আমাদের ওগুলো নেই. We are less rigorous. We don't partake in weapons training. It's like একটা environment যেখানে you are disciplined and you use that discipline to like pursue your academic ambitions. ওখানে extracurricular activities constantly থাকে, all types of sports, all types of stage performances থাকে to help us grow in nature. সো কে বলেছে জানেন, আই থিঙ্ক সাইম মনে হয় বলেছিল যে আই টুক ফুল অ্যাডভান্টেজ অফ ক্যাডেট কলেজের যে পাবলিক স্পিকিং,
And I'm paraphrasing, but that is the gist of it, basically.
আমি রিসেন্টলি একটা জিনিস পড়েছিলাম, ওটা হচ্ছে লাইক হাউ ডু ইউ বিকাম গুড এট সামথিং, যে কোনো স্কিল, এবং ওইটার মধ্যে খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট একটা প্রিরিকুইজিট দেখেছিলাম যে দেয়ার হ্যাজ টু বি আ চান্স ফর ইনস্ট্যান্ট ফিডব্যাক. So like whenever you're performing something, তুমি যদি পারফর্ম করার পর ইনস্ট্যান্ট ফিডব্যাক পাও, you will become good at that quite easily. যেমন যদি আমরা একটা গেমের কথা বলি, ধরো Angry Birds এ যখন when you're clicking the bird and দেখলি you hit an obstacle and you die, you realize আচ্ছা আমার ক্লিকটা বেশি পাওয়ারফুল ছিল বা বেশি আস্তে ছিল. You receive instant feedback. That's why Angry Birds এ খুব তাড়াতাড়ি মানুষজন you get the gist of it, you get the hang of it, ভালো হয়ে যায়. So I think এই জিনিসটা worked when I tried public speaking in Cadet College. এখন এর কনটেক্সট একটু বুঝতে হবে. এটা হচ্ছে যে ক্যাডেট কলেজে মূলত আমরা সবাই নিজেদের মাঝে বাংলায় কথা বলে থাকি. ইংলিশ ইজ লাইক in many English medium schools এখানে সবকিছু কমিউনিকেশন হয় ইংলিশে, বাট ক্যাডেট কলেজে সবকিছু ইউজুয়ালি হয় বেঙ্গলি, জাস্ট এডুকেশনটা হয় ইংলিশে, একটা ইংলিশ ভার্সন স্কুলের মতো. সো দ্য প্রবলেম ওখানে যে আমরা যখন কম্পিট করতাম, ধরো ইংলিশ ডিবেট বা ইংলিশ এক্সটেম্পোর স্পিচেস, যারা ইংলিশ স্পিকার তারা যখন কমিউনিকেট করছে, দি অডিয়েন্স কিন্তু অতটা ইন্টারেস্টেড থাকতো না ইন হোয়াট উই হ্যাভ টু সে. দ্য অডিয়েন্স ইউজুয়ালি ইন্টারেস্টেড থাকতো হচ্ছে মানে কি বেঙ্গলি ডিবেট বা বেঙ্গলি এক্সটেম্পোর স্পিচে, whether with মানে কি যেখানে ইটস ইজিয়ার ফর দেম টু আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড হোয়াট ইজ হ্যাপনিং, স্পিকাররা কি বলতেছে. সো যখন আমি ওখানে আসতাম কথা বলার জন্য, and I had an audience যেটা not interested in what I have to say, they rather prefer যে আমি বেঙ্গলিতে কথা বলি, অনেক ইজিলি ফিডব্যাক পাওয়া যেত যে what is working, what is not working, how do you make your communication in a manner such that সব ধরনের অডিয়েন্স ক্যান গ্রাস্প করতে পারে. মানে it's a spectrum of audience, কারণ ক্যাডেট কলেজে সব জেলার থেকে মানুষ আসে. সো ইটস লাইক ওখানে অনেকে আছে যারা ইংলিশ মিডিয়াম থেকে আসছে, they're enjoying, this is their primary mode of communication. ওখানে অনেকজন আছে যারা not so, they would rather prefer Bengali. So you get that instant feedback. And now imagine participating in competitions for 6 years where after every speech you are getting instant feedback on whether your মানে কি speech is captivating, that's the word you use. So মানে কি how to engage an audience, I guess এই জিনিসটা ভালোভাবে শিখছি because I was getting instant feedback. And what happens এখানে স্কুল কলেজ usually হচ্ছে you perform, you go back home. Cadet কলেজে you perform and you go back to your rooms with your classmates, যেখানে সবাই won't hold back in giving feedback, যারে বোরিং ছিল বারে ভালো ছিল. So I would say 2 things: practice and make sure you get instant feedback. That's what worked for me.
Amazing. I've certainly have read many times that the power of practice and deliberate practice, that you're not just doing the same thing over and over again and you're not perfecting something that is inherently wrong, but you're actually doing something, putting something out there, tweaking what works and what doesn't, and really only doing basically filtering out the bugs. And what I'm hearing here is that you did things, you filtered out bugs, and you were able to do that constantly because you were constantly engaged with your audience, like even after the show, basically. That's fantastic. You also touched upon discipline. Completely different. What does a typical morning routine for you look like? And
এখন
yeah,
আচ্ছা, এখন it's different than ক্যাডেট কলেজে যাচ্ছিল obviously,
right.
but এখন it very like it depends a lot on মানে কি how I planned
Okay.
It for the next few months. So what I usually do হচ্ছে মানে কি let's look at a typical day. I make sure that I get enough sleep. One thing that I found really important হচ্ছে a lot of how productive my day goes actually depend করে যে ঘুমটা ঠিকমতো হলো নাকি. So that's very important. I make sure just 7.
How many hours do you sleep?
7 or 8. That's the typical year. আমি যেখানে থাকি অ্যাভারেজে আশপাশে সবাই 6 বা 5 ঘুমায়।
Right.
Harvard is like one of those places মানে খুব হাসল, খুব
Yeah.
ক্রাঞ্চ। কোনো একটা ফ্রেন্ডের সাথে ডিনার করার জন্য এক সপ্তাহ আগে জানাতে হয়,
Right.
so that they can fit it into their calendar. It's like one of those places. However, ওই সবার মাঝে I try to get 7 or 8. So I wake up usually সেমিস্টার শুরুতে 7টা-8টার দিকে,
Right.
and that starts shifting. আস্তে আস্তে দেরি হতো, সেমিস্টার শেষের দিকে প্রায় 10টা-11টা হয়ে যায়।
Right.
Why? Because as semester proceeds অনেকগুলা ডেডলাইনস আসা শুরু করে,
Late
and
nights.
which means late nights, রাত 2টা, 3টা, 5টা এরকম হয়। That's why আস্তে আস্তে সেমিস্টার শিফট হয়। ডেটাকে ডিভাইড করি, ইউজুয়ালি একটা টাইম রাখি ডেতে ফর ইয়ের জন্য, যে হোমওয়ার্ক, অ্যাসাইনমেন্টস, কম্পালসারি থিংস, স্কুল থিংস। একটা টাইম রাখি যেটা হচ্ছে মাই টাইম। ওটা ইউজুয়ালি সকালে হয়। সো হোয়াট দ্যাট এন্টেন্স হচ্ছে যে ওয়ার্কআউট করব, তারপর হচ্ছে ব্রেকফাস্ট ইফ আই এম ফিলিং লাইক ইট, আর হচ্ছে আই উইল রিড আ বুক। দ্যাটস ইউজুয়ালি মাই টাইমে থাকে। রিড আ বুক অর রাইট অ্যান আর্টিকেল, রাইট সামথিং। এটা হচ্ছে আমার
Creative
টাইমে
work.
থাকে, জাস্ট ক্রিয়েটিভ
Creative
ওয়ার্ক,
work.
এটা আউটলেট। ওইটা সকালে থাকে। সকালে when the day starts, ক্লাসেস থাকে 3-4টা। ক্লাসেসের পর বিকাল সন্ধ্যার দিকে, বিকালে is usually where I catch up on my messages, emails and সব কিছু। Email is the primary mode of communication ওখানে। So অনেক ইমেল আসে and সবগুলা so that you reply.
So let me get this straight. Sorry for
Sure,
interrupting you, but you don't check your phone first thing in the morning?
I try not to, but মানে আমার I have to
Yeah, I mean
that I do sometimes, which is a bad thing.
I mean, I recently told someone in conversation that modern man's problems, 90% of it start when he wakes up and checks his phone in the morning.
True. I tried not checking,
Yeah.
and then I realized যে check না করলে অত ঝামেলা হয় না। Then again, I'm not running a company. I'm not like, I guess তোর অনেক ঝামেলা হতে পারে when if you're not checking your phone first in the morning.
I did this experiment where I was like, the first hour or so, I just wouldn't check it, right? And I was trying to find out what is actually really immediate versus what can wait. And I think, okay, so long story short, the experiment was basically I wouldn't check for the first 2 hours that after I woke up, and it was in airplane mode, the phone, right? And it got tough when I woke up at like 9 or 10, because by then the workday had already started. People are already like have requests from you or want something from you. Although even that is troublesome, and I've reduced that quite a bit now. But what I found useful is waking up earlier. The morning hours, the 6:30 to the 7 a.m., that period of time when you wake up, the first 2 hours you can like comparatively easier for me to just set aside for myself. I also have classes, and so that starts at around 8. And so during that time, waking up at 6:30 or even 7 even gives me at least a 1.5 to 1 hour block in which it's either, for me, it's either just doing a few push-ups or a few minutes of mindfulness meditation kind of thing, all of which kind of sets the tone for the rest of the day, right? But I think the overall problem that I face is that being a type A personality means you're constantly trying to get that extra 1% of productivity in at all times. And what that translates to in your day-to-day is that you're constantly trying to keep yourself engaged, do a bit more work, right? And so after waking up, it's very common for me to go and check the email and see what someone sent last night, or when someone replied, or what the latest news update was. But I've tried to like not do that, or even check Instagram. But yeah, that is very interesting. Keeping the morning, I think your morning routine was something like, I wake up, I do some creative work, I get a workout in, and it's time for myself where I don't really put other things in. And then you have a other slab of time for just homework, work, let's just call it work in general, output that you need to create. And then another slot for just perhaps communications, be it email, through SMS, and you're kind of setting aside different time blocks, what is there any other time block that you specifically put in? Like, for example, there's this Silicon Valley notion that, or maybe just a notion that never have a meal alone, always like eat with someone and just also have that time as networking or something. Do you do something like that?
So depend করে usually আমার breakfast and lunches I tend to eat alone মানে আর কি যতক্ষণ পারি সকালে I try to extend my me time.
Right.
It's just me in my head thinking, not interacting with anyone else. I guess এরকম that's the type of person I am.
Yeah.
But I usually always have my dinners with someone.
Right.
So like weeker শুরুতে I start reaching out to friends or reaching out to acquaintances যাদের সাথে catch up করা হয়. It's always lovely to catch up. So মানে কি I try to set up like একটা meeting at each dinner. So that's like.
And you do this intentionally.
I do this intentionally. I realize that if you don't reach out to a lot of people, you will end up never catching up. So I don't wait for the other person to take the initiative. I always take it myself. ভাল লাগে to talk to people, see what they've been up to. It's crazy, man. When you're talking to people, how much amazing things they're doing. It's crazy. So dinner is usually a thing. Our baki time of the day takes up when.
Question: what started this? Did you read it somewhere? Is this a habit that like you've always practiced? How did this actually start? Because it's a very intentional thing, right?
Acha. How did it start? So when I talk to people এবং দেখি যে একজন মানুষের দিন ভালো যাচ্ছে একজন মানুষের দিন খারাপ যাচ্ছে, it made me curious যে কখন একজনের দিন ভালো যায় কখনের দিন খারাপ যায়, if it makes sense. And then when I used to reflect রাতে যে আমার দিনটা কেমন গেল, ভালো গেল খারাপ গেল, কখন ভালো যাচ্ছে কখন খারাপ যাচ্ছে, what's making the difference. And then I realized it had a lot to do with কাদের সাথে interact করছি সারাদিনে. So I recently came across this research, একটা behavioral science conference এ গিয়েছিলাম, just because it's fun. তো ওখানে I came across this finding যেটা হচ্ছে the quality of your day, subjective well-being in a short term span, একটা day ধরি or একটা week ধরি, it really depends on the quality or frequency of interactions তোমার হইছে with acquaintances, not close friend, with acquaintances, which implies যে যদি regularly তোমার 2-3টা acquaintances সাথে দেখা হয় and it's a good conversation, that increases your subjective well-being. And আমি বিলিভ করি আমার কর্পোরেট ফাইন্যান্স প্রফেসর একটা কথা বলছিল, ওটা হচ্ছে যে people talk about the long term a lot, but what you realize, the long term is nothing but a stream of short terms. So if you make sure your short terms are going well, chances are your long term will go well. I mean, he's a corporate finance professor, of course, that's very typical of him to say, but মাথায় লাগছে জিনিসটা. So I try to make sure যে I have my daily dose of good positive interactions with my acquaintances, so that it ensures my subjective well-being. I think that's how it started, and now it's just fun. I can live with that.
That is quite cool. I could go deeper on that, and I have many questions, but I think this is a good segue for, you mentioned you went to conferences for fun about research related to various things, and while doing my research for this show, I kind of, and which was like a span of a few hours, I'm sorry I didn't have because we randomly did this like last night, right? It was at like 9 p.m. or something, and so I noticed that you've been putting out content out there for various things. A few months ago, you posted something about how people can find opportunities better, be it internships, be it different things. And you talked about something called the reciprocity ring, right? And what I've noticed is you go about and cite or attribute different types of research, and the content that you share are all based on some sort of research. And my question to you is kind of like, it seems to me like you're a person who has a wide range of reading, maybe out of curiosity, maybe out of the sole purpose of creating these kind of shareable contents and these kind of things. But I would like to ask you about how you actually come about reading these kind of things.
Achha.
And is it because of just in time, like I want to create X content at X time or share this with people and do that kind of educational thing? Or is it more of, oh, as I'm going about my educational day to day or my curiosity pursuits, this is what I found interesting and this is something I'll share with other people. Like, how does this happen? How do you read?
How does this happen? How do I read? So অনেকগুলা অ্যাঙ্গেল থেকে জিনিসটাকে অ্যান্সার করা যায়। সো one angle হচ্ছে there are a lot of things যেটা আমাদের জানতে ইচ্ছা করে, and if there is a topic, মানে in একটা পয়েন্টে, মানে any পয়েন্টে যদি আমার একটা টপিক মাথায় আসে যায়, it would be nice to know about behavioral economics. একটা lot of, I think it started off বাংলাদেশে ক্যাডেট কলেজ বা ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটিতে আশপাশে there was this frustration, ঠিক আছে, যে আমি যা পড়তেছি that doesn't align with my interests in life. IBA তে বল, ক্যাড কলেজে বল, যে বিবিএ পড়তেছি, সায়েন্স নিয়ে পড়তে পারলে ভালো হতো। And আমারও ফ্রাস্ট্রেশনটা আসতো, and when I looked around into the curriculum, so as usual, যে কোনো একটা প্রবলেম আসলে you solve it, of course you would know, or at least you try to solve it. That's the feeling of progress.
You can only try.
Yeah, you can only try. So তখন আমার সামনে হলো, আচ্ছা, there are people studying these subjects. Or আমি বিবিএ পড়তেছি, কেউ behavioral economics পড়তেছে, what do they read? And then I realized they read nothing more than like books in a very organized way. এখন হয়তো আমি ওই স্কুলে পড়ি না দেখে আমার অর্গানাইজেশনটা থাকবে না, but I can end up reading those books by myself. I have that time on my hand. So anytime আমার কোনো টপিক নিয়ে জানতে ইচ্ছা করে, I write it down, ওই টপিকটা I Google, ওইটার উপর বেস্ট বুকস কি কি আছে 3-4টা, ওগুলোর নাম লিখে রাখি, and when I'm free আমার যে বড় লিস্টটা হয়ে যায় ওখান থেকে একটা বই নিয়ে পড়া শুরু করি. It's not driven by আচ্ছা এটা নিয়ে একটা আর্টিকেল লিখবো বা এরকম. I learn something and then I write an article about it. I don't plan an article and then read something to back that up. এরকম না. That's the why the emphasis on learning. I guess আমার ক্ষেত্রে learning is a very very necessary feeling. অনেকের থাকে যে মানে কি I have to travel, অনেকের থাকে I have to spend time with friends. People have their that push, that necessary feeling. আমার ক্ষেত্রে হচ্ছে learning, that I constantly have to be learning something. It just makes me happier as a person.
On that note, I think you wrote an article about the best way to learn something is to teach it, right? That was the gist of it, right? Could you speak to that? At one point, did you actually find this very necessary? And then I'm going to tie that very sneakily to the constant question, which anyone who knows you might face this every day, is that what tactics did you use to prepare yourself to get into a school like Harvard? And I think you also, just going to name drop some few more, I think you also got into Princeton. And how does one learn something like that? Is it through teaching? Is it through some other way? Or what tactics did you use to actually focus your learning in a way in which you could achieve those results, to get into Harvard, to get into Princeton, to get into IBA, even though that's a smaller feat?
One of my biggest achievements, IBA to take. So let's start when I cast this একেবারে থেকে I hope I don't talk for long. আমার অভ্যাসটা আছে। So first একটা শুরু থেকে যে I decided যে হ্যাঁ মানে কি I always sit down and মানে কি it all started with me sitting down at the end of the day and like okay this was a good day, why? Then I realized যে acquaintances সাথে meet করা, learning something, it makes me very happy. So ওখান থেকে I fixed it, আচ্ছা আমার I have to keep this habit of learning. What do I learn? So you could be learning Python. At the same time, you could just be reading a book on software engineering. Which one do you choose? I realized the very technical skills, although very essential, does not provide me the same feeling like a conceptual book, if it makes sense. Like taking like when I'm reading a conceptual book or I'm reading on an interesting topic of the work of a scholar, it's a different type of learning. It feels like knowledge. But when I'm practicing Python or R, it feels like I'm doing something for an end. Which starts the question of কি করতেছি মানে কি do I want my life to be all about the career, all about the hustle. So that's why I started reading like more conceptual books, something which feels like knowledge and not like something that I'm doing for an end. ওখান থেকে came this focus on learning. Then I realized many of us have like a information overflow. How do you consolidate that? মানে এরকম হতে পারে you go through a book and you're like cool, that was an interesting book, and after 10 days when you try to recall কি শিখছো you can't. ঠিক আছে হইতে পারে. There has to be an outlet of consolidating that. How do I do that? And that's when I decided to write articles. It just helps me consolidate. And then when I was writing an article, I realized it becomes very powerful. The learning becomes very effective যখন আমি আর্টিকেলটা এভাবে লিখছি as to teach an audience. That's when I had the realization যে when you're teaching an audience, you have a amazing task in front of you. There's this huge information bank. You try to summarize it. You try to take the key takeaways. এমন ভাবে যেটা someone with no prior knowledge can learn it. It requires যে তোমার অনেক powerful understanding থাকতে হবে. কোনো shortcoming থাকা যাবে না, because when you're speaking to a new audience, they will have questions and shortcoming থাকলে ওগুলো answer করতে পারবে না. That's when I came up on the realization যে easily একটা information consolidate করার জন্য teach it.
Yep.
And any ইয়েতে মানে কি যখন আমি পাবলিক স্পিকিং করতাম, it's a different thing. And when I was told আচ্ছা why are you good at this, teach it, তখন you sit down and actually think যে what makes you different from another speaker who is not good at speaking. There are a few key points এবং টিচ করার সময় এটা like অনেক কনসলিডেট হয়ে যায়. Tying that back into my US applications.
And by the way, like you don't have to tie it back. It could be a separate thing altogether.
Tying that back into now that I মানে কি every day আমার কাছে 10-20টা মেসেজ আসে on like US applications which I really appreciate, by the way.
Yeah.
Because reaching out is an important skill to have. It's a very like you reach out to people. That's a very important skill to have. So people reach out যাচ্ছে apply করবো এই questions দিয়ে. Now when I talk about US applications on a conceptual level, now that I'm actually teaching it, I realize what I did right, or what I think I did right ওই টাইমে. I did not realize that I was doing that right যখন আমি এটা apply করতেছিলাম. Now that I teach it,
you've had the time to codify it, right? Because when in the process you were just doing what made sense and
what made sense এরকম.
Okay.
So I guess এখান থেকেই মানে I really appreciate teaching it, teaching anything.
So
in
a follow-up
every field.
question to that is basically the layman parts of me actually wants to just go out and say, okay, how do I get into Harvard? And what did you have for breakfast, or what did you do differently that actually helped you make the difference to actually get into Ivy League schools? And how can I, like, what do you do to actually do that? What do you think, now that you're like thinking back, what do you think you did differently?
আচ্ছা, ফার্স্ট থিং এটা অনেক ইম্পর্টেন্ট. ওইটা হচ্ছে এক এক মানুষের এক একটা অ্যাসপিরেশন থাকে, ড্রিম থাকে, অ্যাম্বিশন থাকে. সো ইউ সি সামওয়ান, ফর ইনস্টেন্স তোর কথা বলি, ইউর ওয়ার্কিং ডে ইন ডে আউট পাঠাও বিল্ড করার জন্য. And if I try to follow that routine, it might not work for me because our aspiration different. I might not be driven by an ambition to get Bangladesh moving like you are, তাই না? So আমার জন্য যে রুটিনটা কাজ করছে, এটা it won't work for anyone else because our aspiration and ambition different ছিল. So it starts with যে when you want to get into an university, have a good purpose. মানে have a powerful purpose যেটা will make sure, because it's a hard process. 1 বছর হোক 2 বছর হোক, আমি অনেক মানুষকে চিনি যারা 4-5 বছর ধরে এই গোলটার জন্য ছুটতেছে. Have a very good purpose. এটা যদি থাকে,
How would you, sorry, on that note, how do you describe a purpose? Is my purpose, for example, to get into Harvard, or is my purpose to, for example, I don't know, teach every youngster in Bangladesh how to code, and the way I do that, I see myself doing that, is going into Harvard, getting a network, etc., etc. How do you describe having a purpose?
আমি যেভাবে দেখতাম ওটা হচ্ছে যে হার্ভার্ড উইল বি একটা, তোমার একটা গোল থাকবে, এবং হার্ভার্ড উইল বি একটা অ্যামেজিং স্টেপিং স্টোন অ্যালং দ্য ওয়ে, যেটা মানে আর কি you will learn a lot. You might even realize that your purpose is different. It will be an exploratory process stage in your life, which will help you go there in a better, more effective way, or which will help you rediscover your passion. Mane, it's just a part in the whole journey.
It is not the destination.
It is not the destination. That's how I saw it. আমার ইয়ে ছিল হচ্ছে যে আমি যখন ক্যাডেট কলেজে ছিলাম, I realized আমার আশপাশে অনেক স্টুডেন্টস আছে who have a lot of potential but avenues নাই to grow that.
What do you mean?
So like 50% এর মতো ডিফেন্সে যাচ্ছে, which is amazing, আর কয়েকজন বাংলাদেশের টপ ইউনিভার্সিটি যাচ্ছে. However, মানে কি রুট বি নাই যদি ওখান থেকে কয়েকজন আইবিজে যেত, কয়েকজন এমআইটি যেত, মানে কি ইন্টেলেকচুয়াল ক্যাপাসিটি গ্রো করার জন্য অ্যাভিনিউস পেত, তারা যেত না কারণ তারা জানতো না. সো এটা আমার গোল ছিল যে I didn't even think about getting into these universities. All I wanted was যে হ্যাঁ আমি পুরো প্রসেসটা শুরু থেকে শেষ পর্যন্ত কমপ্লিট করব, so that I can teach পরবর্তী মানুষদেরকে how do you apply. So that was my purpose, and আমার only goal ছিল I have to complete the process no matter what. It wasn't about getting in.
And how did you arrive at that? Because the sheer fact that I need to complete this so that I can like reciprocate or like teach other people how to do it later. How does that thought even pop into someone's head? Or how did you arrive in it?
We realized কেউ ছিল না আমাদেরকে গাইড করার মতো, এবং chances are it's gonna stay that way until we change it. মানে at that moment in time we were like আচ্ছা মানে কি do we become those people যারা এই এটা প্যাটটা দেখায়? It's not that hard of a decision to make. It's just a question of yes or no. Do we become those people? যে আমরা কি প্যাটটা দেখাবো নাকি? And that's when we like, once you take an oath, like you better stick to it. That's আমাদের যে ইয়েটা ছিল যে আচ্ছা no matter what, হাজারটা অ্যাডমিশন এক্সামস থাকবে, মেডিকেল, আইবিএ টাইবিএ, but we will stick to that goal. এবং that's why মানে কি আমার রুটিন ক্রেজি ছিল during admissions time. আমার আব্বু আম্মু আমি চাচ্ছিলাম আমি মেডিকেলের জন্য পড়ি, আমার পার্সোনালি চাচ্ছিলাম আইবিএ তে ঢোকার জন্য, আর ইউএস অ্যাপ্লিকেশনস তো আছে যেটার জন্য SAT and all that prep লাগে. SAT আমি first জানছি SAT কি when I graduated from a cadet college June, and I had to make my application in December. 6 মাসে সবকিছু. So আমার ডেইলি থাকতে হচ্ছে সকাল I used to always get my sleep. এটা হচ্ছে always works for me. 9টা 9:30 এরকম উঠতাম, ব্রেকফাস্ট ওয়ার্কআউট করে কোচিং এ যেতাম, কোচিং করতাম 2টা 3টা পর্যন্ত. ফেরত এসে দেখতাম যে কোচিং এ কি পড়ছি আজকে, আবার কোচিং এ যেতাম মেন্টরস এর জন্য, ওটা আরো 2-3 ঘন্টা করতাম. ফেরার পর ডিপেন্ডিং অন দ্য ডে, ইফ ইটস আ ফ্রি ডে তাহলে মেডিকেলে পড়া পড়তাম সারাদিন, আর যদি if it's not a free day তাহলে SAT আর mentors এর পড়া পড়তাম, and that for like 5 or 6 months.
And so this was a continuous like starting from 9 a.m. till like a 16 hour day or something like that, right?
Constant for 5 or 6 months. And মানুষ শুনে and they were like this is crazy, like every day you are working for 15-16 hours, like this is crazy. I'm like it wasn't that crazy for me because আমার এটা ছিল চাচি এই গোলটা আমি সেট করছি, if this is what it looks like I have to do it. That's why it worked for me. It might not, মানে যদি মেডিকেলটা না থাকতো আমার কষ্ট 3/4 কমে যেত, যদি আইবিএ না থাকতো আমার 1/4 কমে যেত কষ্ট. So সবগুলা মিলে একটা একটা difficult, complicated routine হয়ে গেছিল. But it doesn't have to be. You could
Right.
only just be preparing for US applications and you could be fine.
Yep. I remember IBA prep being. Obviously, I didn't have as intense of a workload because I decided not to pursue engineering very early on. I went to the BUET coaching probably for 2 weeks before I really realized that, okay, this is actually not for me. I was also involved with Patha at the time, and the logic that actually went into my head was what would actually give me the most amount of time to concentrate on what I really enjoy doing, but also, which was Patha, and I really saw the potential at the time to actually grow this into something, and I realized that BUET or some other engineering school, not that it would be easy to get in, might not be as fulfilling. And IBA seemed like best of both worlds kind of a thing where you have the network, such a overused term nowadays, but you also have that time to actually pursue other things, or so we're told, right? And actually, I found that to be true. And
পাঠাও চালাচ্ছো সাথে সাথে
and so I think I was able to significantly reduce like 1/4 of my workload, which kind of got me into the really being obsessed with the Pareto principle per se, that what 20% can I do to get the 80% of where I want to be, right? But that's interesting to hear you think about, like, you take an oath and you see it through. That, like, the having that discipline, having that constant, like, fixed mindset, that's very interesting. I want to shift gears a bit. I want to ask you a few very quick questions because these were all long form and they were very interesting. But a few quick questions around what are 2 to 3 books that have greatly influenced you or your life or your thoughts?
আচ্ছা অনেক পড়ি তো
I can
you
tell.
ask this question
I can
after
tell.
after a month and I will have 3 or 4 different books. I could start I could start with classics, not saying that they're not good, but I won't start with them, I guess, because chances are you already have heard of them, Sapiens, and it
Okay.
adds nothing new to your recommended list. One amazing book I would recommend Power of Moment.
Okay.
It's a book on like two like great writers. তার আরেকটা বই লিখছিল Made to Stick. It's on public speaking, the best book I've read on public speaking. So they analyzed a lot of amazing moments in people's life, and they tried to understand what are the elements that make some moment special. So in a তাদের intention ছিল, once you know what makes moments special, you can try having more of those in your life or create more in the lives of people around you. Kind of principles আছে, and I tried following those with my friends and with my loved ones, and they were like, damn, this will go down as one of my life's like favorite moments. And I'm like, it worked. So the Power of Moments, I highly recommend. Number 2, I would recommend the author, Nam Adam Grant.
Yeah.
Organizational psychologist, amazing writer. তার একটা বই আছে হচ্ছে Give and Take.
Right.
It's about how the act of giving can help you grow as a person, and also help grow your organization. For an entrepreneur, or just in general life, highly recommend reading that book. It's a nice feeling to give and then realize what effects that have long term. So Give and Take, highly recommend.
If I'm not wrong, you actually reached out to Adam Grant at some point, and he actually replied back, and
সে হার্ভার্ডের তো alumni.
Oh,
So
okay.
I guess we had that thing in common,
Right.
which will help get a reply if it makes sense.
Seeam, you are very good at, I've noticed this, you're very good at reaching out to people, making connections, and these kind of things. We might want to do a segue on actually how do you reach out to people who may or may not be directly in your lane but have a second degree or third degree connection, or you might want to like know them or something like that. And is this an ability that you've just now like stumbled upon? Is this something you've intentionally developed, And how do you actually go about doing
Sure.
that? And I think nowadays it's kind of like the term network, at least in my head, I've said this a few times now, but has a very negative connotation where it's kind of like, right? You're constantly like in it, what's in it for me? That kind of a intention you're bringing to the conversation. But how do you actually genuinely have conversations, reach out to people, and do that?
Acha. First, যেটা most important হচ্ছে have a reason to go out and reach out to people. মানে it might be আমার ক্ষেত্রে যা হয়, the usual reason I have is like I want to know about something. Out of curiosity হতে পারে, বা হচ্ছে out of professional reasons, আচ্ছা এই কোম্পানিতে কাজ করেছে, how is that company কালচার লাইক, or ওখানে ওয়ার্ক করা কিরকম, এটা হতে পারে। আমার ইউজুয়াল কেস থাকে হচ্ছে যে আচ্ছা ধরো বাংলাদেশের স্টার্টআপ সিন, it's growing, it will আরো গ্রো সামনে, ডেমোগ্রাফিক চেঞ্জ দেখলে যা মনে হয়। সো লাইক এটা কেমন, ওখানে ওয়ার্ক করা কিরকম, ওখানে বিজনেস ওখানে চ্যালেঞ্জেস কিরকম জানতে ইচ্ছা করে, জাস্ট আউট অফ কিউরিওসিটি। সো তখন ইউ ট্রাই টু রিচ আউট টু পিপল যারা ওরকম একটা যারা একটা ভালো একটা ইটস লাইক reading a book actually, but it's a conversation.
How so?
Yeah, like একটা book হচ্ছে speaking with someone for 30 years. All the knowledge you would get, ওটা you can get from a book. But ওই টাইমটা না থাকলে, imagine you want to know about the food delivery industry in Bangladesh. Chances are there are no books written on it. What do? You talk to people যারা ওখানে আছে. So it's like you read a mini book. That's how I see it at a conversation. So that's the first step. Have a clear purpose in mind that you can get something out of it. However, it doesn't have to account to something. মানে কি it could be যে হ্যাঁ জানতে চাইছি, ইচ্ছা হয়েছে জানবো, জানা শেষ। You don't have to make something out of it. একটা পার্টিকুলার কোম্পানি মানুষের সাথে কথা বলছে মানে ওখানে একটা ইন্টার্নশিপ করা লাগবে, মানে জাস্ট গেট দ্য নলেজ, ওয়াক আউট। যদি পরে ইন্টার্নশিপ করতে হয় করবি, মানে ইট ডাজন্ট হ্যাভ টু। ভালো হয় কি যে ইফ ইউ আর ড্রিভেন যে আচ্ছা আমার ইন্টার্নশিপটা করা লাগবে, তাহলে কনভারসেশনটা ওরকম টার্ন নেয়, and it is not enjoyable তখন, because তখন তুমি খুব একটা you're trying to get something out.
You're very focused on the outcome.
হ্যাঁ, which is not the point. মানে go there, have fun. If you feel like তাহলে পরে আবার reach out করে যাচ্ছে, this looks like fun, কোনো opportunities আছে নাকি। So এটা হচ্ছে first. How do you write the like email? Try to find একটা contact here. There are contact ways. If you know a direct contact way.
Yeah. Would this be usually like a LinkedIn search or Facebook search and then finding an inbox or an email address? Or
Facebook usually works.
Right.
Chances are যে মানুষটা মেসেজ রিকোয়েস্ট জানে না এটা কি, so
or chooses to
ignore. এটা হতে পারে। There is LinkedIn. যদি মানে কি দেখো, do a search on সে কি LinkedIn অনেক অ্যাক্টিভ, or সে কি ফেসবুকে একটা অ্যাক্টিভ, যেখানে সবচেয়ে অ্যাক্টিভ ওই মিডিয়াম দিয়ে রিচ আউট করো। আর আরেকটা হচ্ছে ইফ ইউ কোনো রকম চিনো, নাম শুনছো, কানেকশন আছে, তখন মানে কি ইউ গো থ্রু আ পারসন যে তার সাথে ক্লোজ। অন দ্য ইমেল বি ভেরি স্পেসিফিক অ্যাজ টু হাউ দ্যাট পারসন ক্যান হেল্প ইউ, বিকজ ওয়ান থিং আই রিয়েলাইজ, মানুষ আসলে না বেশিরভাগ সময় হেল্প করতে চায়, বাট ইউ হ্যাভ টু গিভ দেম অ্যান অ্যাভিনিউ যে আচ্ছা কিভাবে। ইফ ইটস আ ওল্ড ফ্রেন্ড, তাহলে like হ্যাঁ জাস্ট চ্যাট করতে চাই, দ্যাটস এনাফ, বাট চান্সেস আর ও তোমার ফ্রেন্ড না। গিভ দেম অ্যান অ্যাভিনিউ, আচ্ছা আমি এই জিনিস নিয়ে জানতে চাই, আমার পারপাস হচ্ছে আই উড রাইট অ্যান আর্টিকেল ফর ইট, ওর আমি জাস্ট কিউরিয়াস, এই ভবিষ্যতে এই এরিয়াতে কাজ করতে চাই। সো গিভ দেম আ পারপাস যে আচ্ছা আমি এটা জানতে চাই এবং এই জন্য জানতে চাই।
ভেরি ক্লিয়ার এন্ড কনসাইজ আস্ক,
ভেরি তাহলে দেখবা ইজিলি ইফ ইউ গিভ that to people, তারাও দেখবা যে মানে কি অ্যাকচুয়ালি হেল্প করতে চায়, at least in most cases. Bias থাকতে পারে যে হয়তো বা that's why they're successful, because they have the tendency of helping out and
the giver taker and measures kind of.
So ওইটা হওয়ার পর finally try to focus on মানে কি things you have in common. এটা just increases the chances of,
right,
if you are from a same institution, তোমাদের কি hobbies same, তোমাদেরকে way of thinking same. আচ্ছা if it's very famous people, I once spoke to একটা cloud I think it was like cloud storage naki cloud computing er ekta entrepreneur. He's a billionaire, but like, he's huge. I reached out to him, and I think the only reason he replied was I found one of his quotes online that I really resonated with. And I talk about that. যে আমার এরকম type of thinking অনেক ভালো লাগছে, and I just want to know more about you.
Just
কোটটা ছিল হচ্ছে এরকম যে it is so a bit of background on him. I think he led Facebook's data team.
Okay.
ঠিক আছে? He was an amazing data. First, he worked in quant finance. He was a Wall Street একটা মানে everyone knew him to the quant finance genius. ওইটার পর he went to tech because he didn't like Wall Street. No, name দিব না. You can if you do your research you can find out name দিব না. But quant finance genius ছিল he's like আচ্ছা finance আমার meaning পাচ্ছি না, let's go to tech. Facebook he led the data team.
Sure.
And then ওখানে সে meaning পাচ্ছে না, and then he used his data science year to open his own cloud computing company. ওইটা turned into a $1 billion company. সে meaning পাচ্ছে না. Now he works runs his own cancer research institute. And I think finally he's happy. So তার কথাটা এরকম ছিল যে it's a shame how the most brilliant minds of our generation are মানে কি spending their time making people click ads. এটা আমার খুব ইয়েতে লাগছে যে হ্যাঁ you're looking at like the most talented people অনেকে just going to Google, Facebook and they're helping people click ads. It was crazy. So এটা খুব ভালো লাগছে, and that's why I reached out to him and he replied. So find something that connects you to. তাহলে chances বেড়ে যায়। এরকম 2-3টা principle know what you're looking for. Tell them what you're looking for. Be very specific. Like tell them why you're looking for that. Or 5 যাব আসলে 4 হচ্ছে try to
find commonalities.
Commonalities. It might be small. You have an interest in magic. I have an interest in magic as well. Or 5 হচ্ছে মানে কি be considerate. I understand যদি না পারো whatever you like. Music phone call করতে চাও, যদি দেখা করতে চাও, if it's a video chat or if it's like one email a month, I will take it. Be considerate. And even if it's like absolutely কোনো interaction, I mean this is the only interaction, it's fine. Like you will have other people in your life যাদের কাছ থেকে you can like gain knowledge and whatnot. So এটা and hey, it's not something that has to be inside you. মানে এই traitটা you can grow it.
You can develop it.
You can actually develop it. মানে অনেকে ভাবে যে আমি extrovert না, আমি পারবো না, মানে this has nothing to do with that.
Are you an extrovert?
I'm an introvert. But I'm not shy. I guess এই জিনিসটা মানুষ অনেক ইয়ে করে যে introvert হচ্ছে যাদের energy level মানে কমে যায় when around people, extrovert যাদের বেড়ে যায়. Being shy is a different thing altogether. So even if you're an introvert, তুমি যে ইমেলটা পাঠাচ্ছ, it has nothing to do with you being an introvert. It's like whether you are shy or not, and that can be removed. এটা সরানো যাবে. You don't have to be shy. Being an introvert is something you can't necessarily.
What about public speaking? Because you're an introvert and you're doing public speaking and you're doing it very well. How do you go about doing that?
I think it's tied to social anxiety and not to being an introvert, because you are not interacting with them. Then chances are, and you are not interacting as in monarchy. You're speaking at them. You're not speaking with them.
Do you think it's that's very interesting, because you're divorcing the thing, you're divorcing the characteristic of social anxiety from identifying as an introvert, which many would not do. They might perhaps say it is basically a characteristic of an introvert that they have social anxiety when interacting with people, but you've divorced that. Would you say it is a matter of mindset, that these are certain characteristics that I can tweak, these are some things that are inherent about me, and these are things that I can actually work with, I can actually like make better, and it's a muscle that I can actually like grow? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that generally
so here's my hypothesis. I don't know if it's applicable to everyone,
right,
but I've definitely seen many people tweak it.
Okay.
ঠিক আছে? So এরকম হইতে পারে it's not possible to tweak it,
right,
in your case বা যে কোনো একটা কেসে.
Yeah.
So that's my but আমি দেখছি এরকম কেসে যে social anxiety starts with অনেক কিছু, যে the feeling about a lot of things could go wrong, feeling about being rejected, like fear of being rejected, fear of losing. That's like a fundamental human যে খুব powerful একটা things which drives human হচ্ছে law, they don't want to lose something. This behavior of loss aversion. So এটা অনেক সময় কাজ করে যে আমার মানে I will lose a lot of esteem অনেক মানুষের সামনে.
Either like reputation or like my
সেরকম অনেকগুলো ফিলিং কাজ করে which fuels social anxiety. I think all of those can be tweaked.
I think we're nearing the end of this whole thing, but is there anything actually are you done with book recommendations? You mentioned 2, but is there anything else?
Power of Moments, Give and Take. আরেকটা ক্লাসিক ওটা হচ্ছে Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker.
Okay.
If you don't know, এটা একটা recommendation that if someone wrote a book and it's a famous book, chances are they have a TED talk or a long talk on that issue. You can watch that as like a trailer যে বুকটা ভালো হবে নাকি.
Right.
Because তারা চেষ্টা করবে ওই বুকের summarized finding ওই ইয়েতে দিতে. So Sean Aker, Happiness Advantage, ওইটার উপরে একটা TED talk আছে, one of the most watched TED talk, amazing TED talk, I loved it. She happens to be a Harvard alum, just plug, shameless plug. So it's an amazing book. It's about being happy in life and how that fuels performance.
Yep.
So এটা হচ্ছে the final book recommendation.
Amazing. I think this has been close to an hour. And it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't because we've generally circled around topics that I personally am very interested in, be it productivity, be it like different like wacky techniques or things that you've done. And so with that, any parting thoughts? Anything else you'd like to share? I could end it on a very interesting note. I could ask you one last final question, which I find very interesting. What is one absurd or very weird habit that you have that you'd be comfortable sharing?
Weird habit. I guess I প্রচুর stand-up দেখি YouTube. Like by প্রচুর I mean hours. Like at a weekend বসবো 8 p.m. I would get up at 1 a.m. just YouTube ছিলাম stand-up paper stand-up. The reasons are it makes me happy. And a thing about comedians ওরা হচ্ছে when মানে কি they make a good situation out of something very depressing. মানে কি there was a research done on it. Comedians are usually more depressed or sad than your average population. So is comedy a way that they're dealing with it? I don't know. We can never know.
Is it a coping mechanism?
But মানে কি comedy helps me, let's say, change the perception I have about a lot of things in my life. Like if something sad happens, chances are like I can convert it into something funny or happy because I have this habit of watching stand-up comedy. It's a fun thing.
It helps you reframe.
Reframe shopkisu, and that's very important. I think you would know. You look like someone who does it.
Yeah.
Lot, so.
I mean, my personal 2 cents on it is basically life is what it is. Things happen to you, and what is in your locus of control is basically how you respond to it. And the way you kind of go about responding to it, for me at least, is it starts with reframing things that happen to you versus things you can respond to. I think this is a quote by Jordan Peterson or someone, is basically you can either brace for catastrophe or face the challenges of life voluntarily. And it's something that resonates with me because a lot of what the past 4 years building Pathao has been, hey, here's another curveball. Like, you just finished this, here's another curveball, right? And it kind of like has to be reframed in some respects. And so it makes sense to me in that way. But with that, thank you for being here. I know we just wanted to chat initially, but thank you for doing this show, and hopefully this won't be the first and last episode. We'll have more, and yeah, that is Seeam Shahid, ladies and gentlemen, and with that we're going to end our first episode.